Britain just crossed a line nobody saw coming. 14.3 million people now live in poverty. And here's the part that should terrify you. 2/3 of them have jobs. They wake up, go to work, pay taxes, and still can't afford basic necessities. This isn't Victorian England. This is happening right now in 2025 in the world's 6th largest economy. You're watching the collapse of a promise that held Britain together for generations. Work hard, get a good job, live a comfortable life. That promise is dead. Today, earning what used to be good money means choosing between heating your home and feeding your family. Teachers visit food banks, nurses can't afford to live where they work, tech workers move back with their parents. Something fundamental has broken in the British economy, and your salary cannot fix it. The trap millions are stuck in works like this. Your salary goes up 5.6% this year. Great news, except everything else went up 10% last year and 8% the year before that. You're actually poorer than 3 years ago despite earning more money. The maths is brutal and simple. When costs rise faster than wages for multiple years, you lose ground every single day. A primary school teacher in Birmingham earning around £36,000 to £37,000 depending on experience sits just below the UK median £37,400. 5 years ago, that salary meant security. Today, it means skipping lunch to afford school uniforms. This isn't about bad financial planning. Teachers budget every penny, shop at discount stores, never eat out, haven't bought new clothes in 2 years. They work 50 hours a week educating the next generation, yet they're one car repair away from disaster. When teachers can't afford basic dignity, the system has failed. The government says inflation is down to 3.6%. Sounds manageable until you realise that's on top of the massive increases we've already absorbed since 2020. Your pound today buys what 60 pence bought 4 years ago, but wages only went up 20% in that same period. You don't need advanced maths to see the problem. Energy bills tell the real story. Food inflation hit 19.1% by March 2023. Think about that. Nearly £1 in every 5 you spend on groceries is pure inflation from just 1 year. Basics like bread, milk and eggs become luxury items for working families. The Trussell Trust distributed 2.9 million emergency parcels in 2024 to 2025. These aren't unemployed people gaming the system. They're your colleagues, your kids' teachers, your local paramedics. The math becomes impossible when you factor in housing. The average UK home costs 7.7 times the average salary. In the 1990s, it was 4 times. But that's for buyers. For renters, it's even worse. Private rents jumped 6.7% in the year to June 2025, continuing years of relentless increases. In London, people pay £2,000 monthly for a one-bedroom flat. That's £24,000 a year after tax just for shelter. The knock-on effects destroy lives. Young professionals commute 3 hours daily because they can't afford to live near work. Key workers leave cities entirely, creating staffing crises in hospitals and schools. Families cram into unsuitable housing, affecting children's education and health. When nurses can't afford to live in London, who staffs the hospitals? When teachers flee to cheaper areas, who educates the children? Parents face an impossible equation. Childcare costs £305 monthly for part-time care of a child under 3, according to Caram's 2025 survey. But that's only where the new 15-hour entitlement is fully taken up. Costs are higher in Wales, Scotland, and for families who missed the funding window. The cruel irony cuts deep. It often costs more to work than to stay home. Some families try alternating shifts, one parent working days, the other nights, never seeing each other, destroying marriages to avoid childcare costs. Others rely on grandparents, but what happens when grandparents still work because they can't afford retirement? The support structure that made work possible has collapsed. Universal credit was supposed to simplify everything. Instead, it created new traps. Earn an extra £1, lose 55 pence in benefits. Take an overtime shift, wait weeks for payments to adjust while bills pile up. The system punishes every attempt to improve your situation. The taper rate means working more hours barely improves your life. Someone on universal credit who increases their hours from 20 to 30 per week might gain just £50 monthly after benefit reductions. That's £1.25 per extra hour worked. Meanwhile, the stress of constant reassessments proving you deserve help, filling endless forms, breaks people down psychologically. The freeze on health and disability elements in the spring 2025 budget made things even worse. People, too sick to work full-time, watch their support shrink against rising prices. They're forced to work when medically inadvisable, making conditions worse, creating a downward spiral of declining health and increasing poverty. 6.8 million people work in severely insecure employment, according to the Work Foundation. 0 hours contracts, gig economy apps, agency work that vanishes overnight. You might earn £15 an hour, but only get 10 hours one week, 30 the next. Try getting a mortgage with that income pattern. Try renting a flat when you can't prove steady earnings. Delivery drivers in Manchester face the algorithm lottery. Some weeks they make £800, other weeks £200. The algorithm decides their fate. They can't plan, can't save, can't commit to anything requiring regular payments. They're not unemployed, but they're not really employed either. They exist in a grey zone where work doesn't mean security. The gig economy promises flexibility but delivers precarity. You're not an employee, so no sick pay, no holiday pay, no pension contributions. You're an entrepreneur, they say, whilst controlling every aspect of your work through an app. The real entrepreneurs are the companies avoiding employee responsibilities while extracting maximum value from desperate workers. Poverty has a postcode. The West Midlands, the North East have the highest working poverty concentrations. These aren't unemployment black spots, they're places where work doesn't pay. When the mines closed, when factories shut, the replacement jobs paid half as much with none of the security. In Stoke-on-Trent, the proud potteries employed thousands in skilled manufacturing. Now Amazon warehouses track your toilet breaks. Sports direct distribution centres time your movements to the second. The dignity of work disappeared along with the wages. You can work full-time and still need food banks to survive. London tells a different story, but the same ending. Yes, wages are higher, but costs are astronomical. A professional earning £70,000 in London has less disposable income than someone earning £40,000 in Newcastle, once housing costs are factored in. The capital sucks in workers who can't afford to live there, creating mega commutes that destroy quality of life. Even middle-class professionals feel the squeeze. Teachers' real wages have fallen in real terms over the past decade. Junior doctors earn less in real terms than the predecessors 30 years ago. These are the jobs parents pointed to as success. Get a degree, become a professional, you'll be all set. That promise evaporated. A software engineer earning £60,000 can't afford the life their parents had on half that salary. Private school for kids? Impossible. Annual foreign holidays? Maybe camping in Wales. The middle-class lifestyle requires upper-class income. The professional jobs that built suburban Britain no longer sustain it. The psychological impact runs deep. You did everything right, studied hard, got qualifications, worked your way up. Yet you're worse off than your parents were at your age. The social contracts didn't just break, it reversed. Progress becomes regress. The ladder previous generations climbed has missing rungs. Retirement security vanished while nobody was watching. Company pension schemes closed to new members, then closed entirely. The state pension age rose to 67 and heading higher. Auto-enrollment means you contribute 5% of salary you can't spare for a retirement you might not reach. The maths is terrifying. Someone earning $35,000 contributing 8% total from age 25 might build a pension pot of $400,000. Sounds good until you realize that buys an annuity of maybe $20,000 yearly. After 40 years of contributions, you'll have less than today's state pension provides. And that assumes no breaks for childcare, no periods of unemployment, no early retirement due to ill health. Meanwhile, current pensioners aren't escaping either. The triple lock sounds generous until you realize it's protecting an amount that already doesn't cover basic living costs. Energy bills hit pensioners hardest. They're home all day, often in poorly insulated older properties. That generation that was meant to enjoy comfortable retirement, they're choosing between heating and eating, just like their grandchildren. Financial stress creates mental health disasters. The constant anxiety of never having enough, the shame of needing food banks despite working, the despair of seeing no way out. HSE statistics reveal 776,000 cases of work-related stress, depression, or anxiety. By the time people get help, they've lost jobs, relationships, sometimes their lives. Children absorb this stress. They see parents arguing about money, working multiple jobs but never present, too exhausted for bedtime stories. Educational achievement drops when kids are hungry, cold, or anxious about losing their home. Poverty cascades through generations. The damage isn't just financial, it's developmental. Relationships crumble under financial pressure. The leading cause of divorce isn't infidelity, it's money problems. When both partners work full-time but still can't provide security for their children, blame and resentment build. Working poverty doesn't just steal your money, it steals your health, your family, and your future. The numbers don't lie. Brexit cut trade intensity by 15%, according to the official estimates, pushing import costs higher just as global inflation struck. The pound weakened, making imported food and energy more expensive. Those promises of prosperity outside the EU, they become higher prices and fewer opportunities. Financial services survived, but manufacturing got hammered. The secure factory jobs that lifted previous generations moved to Europe or disappeared entirely. The UK imports nearly half its food. Every global shock now hits British dinner tables harder and faster. That sovereignty people voted for came with a price tag nobody mentioned: permanent inflation on life's essentials. When legal work doesn't pay enough to live, illegal options become rational. Shoplifting prosecutions increasingly involve working people stealing food, nappies, basic toiletries. These aren't career criminals, they're parents whose legal income doesn't cover legal necessities. Magistrates describe their caseloads changing completely. Previously, drugs and theft for profit. Now, survival crime by employed people. The justice system wasn't designed for working poverty. What's the appropriate sentence for someone who stole bread whilst working 50 hours a week? Does prison help when the problem is wages that don't cover food? The courts have become the endpoint of economic failure. Germany shows what's possible. Workers there earn more and pay less for housing. French families get proper childcare support that actually makes work worthwhile. Nordic countries prove you can have decent wages, strong safety nets, and successful economies simultaneously. These aren't fantasies, they're policy choices. Even America, with all its problems, offers higher wages for many jobs. A registered nurse in California earns double their UK counterpart with lower living costs relative to income. British-trained doctors flee to Australia where they earn more and work less. The brain drain isn't about adventure anymore, it's about survival. The UK chose a different path: low wages, high costs, minimal support. Each government promised change but delivered tinkering. The minimum wage rises sound impressive until you calculate them against cost increases. Universal credit replaced one broken system with another. Levelling up became levelling down. The political will for real reform exhausted itself on Brexit battles while working people got poorer every year. Economists agree on what's needed, even if politicians don't. Massive social housing construction would break the rental trap. Not affordable housing at 80% of the market rate, but genuine affordable homes tied to local incomes. It worked after World War II, and it could work again. Workers' rights need strengthening, ending 0 hours contracts, guaranteeing minimum weekly hours, requiring stable scheduling. The gig economy needs regulation that provides security without destroying flexibility. Other countries manage this balance, the UK could too. The tax system needs fundamental reform. Wealth accumulates whilst wages stagnate because we tax work heavily and wealth lightly. A nurse pays more tax on overtime than a landlord pays on rental profit. That's not ideology, it's mathematics that ensures working people stay poor while asset owners get richer. Industrial strategy could create good jobs outside London. The UK has world-class universities, innovative companies, and skilled workers. But without coordinated investment in manufacturing, technology, and green industries, those advantages waste away. The market alone won't fix regional inequality that took decades to create. Childcare should be infrastructure, like roads or schools, but free universal high-quality childcare would transform the economy overnight. Parents could work without losing money, children would get better starts in life. The upfront costs would be repaid through increased tax revenue and reduced benefits claims. Benefit reform must make work pay. The current taper rates and cliff edges trap people into poverty. A more gradual withdrawal, a higher work allowance, faster payment adjustments, these aren't radical ideas, they're basic fixes that would help millions escape the benefits trap. This is Britain's choice: fix this or face social breakdown. When working people can't afford basics, democracy itself becomes unstable. The far right grows by exploiting economic desperation. Crime increases as legal options disappear. Health systems collapse as staff flee to countries that pay properly. Education fails as teachers leave the profession. The money exists. The UK remains one of the world's richest countries, but that wealth concentrates in even fewer hands whilst working people get poorer. This isn't natural or inevitable, it's policy choices that prioritize property over people, shareholders over workers, wealth over wages. Time is running out. Every month, more working families fall into poverty, more young people give up on the future, more skilled workers leave for countries that value them. The social contract that held Britain together, work hard and you'll be okay, needs urgent repair. Not patches or promises, but fundamental reform that makes work pay enough to live with dignity. The alternative is continuing decline, a country where having a job doesn't mean having a life, where working full-time means choosing between heating and eating, where the promise of progress through hard work becomes a cruel joke. That's not the Britain anyone wants, but it's the Britain we're creating through inaction. The illusion of the good job must end. We need to see clearly that earning more means nothing if costs rise faster, that individual success can't overcome systemic failure, that working poverty threatens everyone's future. Only then can we demand and create an economy where work provides not just survival, but the decent life everyone deserves.